Let's take a tour through the Customer Insights for Product Team's Airtable app. In this walkthrough, you'll learn how this app works and how to make it your own. We'll walk through how to centralize scattered sources of customer feedback into a source of truth, how to produce reports that identify and synthesize themes across your product feedback, how to send automated emails that surface insights proactively to your PMs, using Omni to discover novel ideas and validate your hypotheses, and how to use AI to generate responses to customer feedback at scale. So after creating your first report in the app through the step-by-step flow, you'll land on this overview screen. In Airtable, we have this distinction between the data layer, automations layer, and interface layer. So right now we're on the interface layer. If we want, we can also hit launch at any time up here to see the fully immersive experience and remove those builder options on the side and on the top. To get back to where we actually make changes to the app, you'll just click on the name of the app up here and then go to edit pages to drop into interfaces or edit data to drop directly into the data layer. So let's start in the data layer, which is where all of our key information is actually stored. And I'll talk through how the app works at a high level. So this is where we'll drop in what we call sources. So a source is basically just any raw content that your customers are saying about your product. This can come from anywhere. So in this sample data, we have social posts, we have support tickets, entire call transcripts, or things like survey responses. So this field right here, source content, is a long text field, and that's where the actual raw inputs are stored. We also have other data about each source, so we can have customer name, the date of the source, the URL, and then things get really interesting when we convert those sources to insights. So we have a sources table, we have an insights table. One source could produce one, many, or no actionable insights. So this is what our AI agents are actually going to help us with here. So back on the interface layer here, we hit this button for extract insights when we are ready to convert our sources into actionable insights. Let me show you what actually happens here. So we have an automation associated with that button that goes and looks at all sources for this given report that interface is looking at, and it makes a change to all of the records that are associated with that report. All it does is look at this field right here, which is called Start Insight Extraction, and sets that to the value Go. That's the only option for this field. It can either be blank or it can be Go. And that kicks off the Insight Extraction field agent, which is the first and probably most important agent in this app. So this agent has very specific instructions to look at the source content that we're providing it, with some supporting data about who the customer is, and then create a response that breaks that source content down into one, many, or no actionable insights and tell us what it actually learned. So it's like a skilled PM or product analyst reading all of that source content and telling us what actually matters. So let's say out of a call transcript, it might return multiple insights. So the first insight here, customers want easier Slack integrations. It's going to write that caption for the insight and then give us the verbatim quote and attribute it to that customer. And then it just inserts a comma to continue on to the next insight, and it'll do that for as many insights as it sees necessary. We can modify any of these instructions in this prompt into insights, which are specific and actionable pieces of customer feedback. To add your own data to the sources table to kick off this process, you can just hit this check mark up here, right click, delete all selected records, and then you'll come up to the drop down beside the sources table, import from CSV. When you're importing from CSV, the only fields that you need to map are the source type, customer name, and source content. If you have source date and source URL, you can do that as well, but you can leave all the other fields unmapped, and AI is going to do the work of populating those for us. Okay, so that's our first job complete. We have now centralized scattered sources of customer feedback into a source of truth on the sources table, and then we have processed them into actionable insights using AI agents, which are going to live on the insights table. Now let's move on to identifying and synthesizing the themes across all these insights. So for this, we're going to use a reports table. So this is the third table to introduce you to in this app. In this example, we have a report that is associated with all the insights from that sample data that we brought in. You can see the scope of coverage that we have here. By linking that data up to this report, it allows us to create a lookup field in Airtable that we're just calling all insight content here. And look what this is doing. So now we have this cleaned up data where we've pulled individual insights, actionable insights from every source of customer feedback. Again, call transcripts, support tickets, social, whatever it is. So hopefully you can see where this is going. We're going to take all of this insight content now and give it to our analysis agent. The analysis agent is instructed to produce an executive summary using a very specific format where it distills those insights into actionable themes that cut across all of our product areas. It's not just looking narrowly through the lens of one product area or another. So it's actually going to identify unmet needs or untapped opportunities that maybe we're not organized to solve for today in our current structure. It's going to give us verbatim quotes. It's going to give us potential actions we could take as a product team, giving us novel ideas that are actually tied to those customer insights. And it's going to produce this response that's highly formatted and crisp and ready to share with our team and hopefully drive some real action and insight. From there, we have another AI agent that looks at what the analysis agent produced and just grabs the list of themes, comma separated. We're going to use the same technique to drop those into our themes table. Once we have the themes table, now we can go back and map each individual insight into one of those themes. So this gives us that output that we saw at the top, where we have this report that gives us a crisp executive summary, all text here, but then we're able to scroll down and see the actual structured data. So now we can say each insight is associated with a given theme, and we can see the data that supported each theme drilling all the way down to the verbatim. Assigning insights to themes uses an automation. And so we're here in the automations tab. When a record is updated in the themes table, we are going to perform a couple steps. So we're going to go generate a list of all insights for the report we're looking at. We're going to do the same for the list of all the themes. And then we're going to say, let's match them together. So rather than trigger AI within a field, as we've seen already for some other steps within this app, this time we're doing it in automations. And we're going to go through every single insight and analyze which theme it matches up with. So the prompt here is instructed to look at a given insight and choose from a list of options of themes as to which one it maps into. And that kind of reflects the work that the analysis agent did back into our structured data. And then it updates that insight with the choice that this kind of theme assignment agent has chosen. And then we do the exact same thing with product areas. So if we tab over to the data layer in the product areas table, this is where you can list out your particular organization within your team of how you break down your product surface areas. And that creates the list of options that this automation can look at when it goes through each insight and assigns it to the most relevant product area. So to recap the structure of this app, we start by dropping in sources in their raw form. We turn those sources into insights. Those sources and insights are associated with a report. If you're ever seeing that your report is empty, it may just be that the insights and sources are not directly associated with the report. So you can correct that by coming into the sources table, looking at the reports field right here, and just making sure that that source is associated with the report that you are building. On the reports table, all of those insights get rolled up into this analysis agent, which produces an executive ready response for us. Those themes get broken down and then mapped back to insights, as do the product area. And those both get matched up with their appropriate insights using an automation. Now, we don't just want our PMs to have to remember to check the app in order to get the latest customer insights. Let's bring those insights to them. So every week here on this automation, we are triggering this email send. So the couple intermediate steps here are this automation is going to go build out a list of all of our product areas. So it's basically just going and viewing what we'd set up in the data layer. And then it's looking through all new insights within a certain time horizon, so on or before 1 week ago, and generating an email. And so all of this, as you can see here, is editable and just uses these variables to populate the content of the email. It's going to go find the insights for that PM. It's going to make it clear that this is specific to their product area, and then it can direct them to the app for further deep dives. In order to set up your team here, all you need to do is head to the product areas table, and then under owner, you'll have your team in here as collaborators, and then the Airtable automation will look at the email associated with that individual, and that's who will receive the email for that product area. So with all this incredible data in one place, we want to give our team a way to essentially have a conversation with that data. So we get these crisp executive summaries per product area, as well as across all product areas that we showed. But what if we have more questions? From the interface, we can access Omni from here in the bottom right and just ask Omni any additional question that comes to mind. Omni is really a collaborator in coming up with and exploring novel product ideas, validating our hypotheses, and understanding where the next big unmet need or breakthrough for our product team might come from. What's really exciting about Omni is it will always cite its sources. So given your question, it will produce a relevant response, and then it will actually cite specific data within the app that you can drill down into to validate what Omni has produced here. So you never just have to trust the response outright. You can always go down to the source yourself. Okay, and now one last final touch within this app. We're back here in the data layer on the sources table, and we have one more field agent here called Product Manager Response. This agent has instructions to generate a short, professional, curiosity-led response to each source of customer feedback that's being dropped into our app. So I'd encourage you to come in here and customize the instructions you give this field agent with context on what's most relevant for you and your business and your product managers based on maybe what you're already working on. So the more context you can give these agents, the better their responses will be. But let's see this agent run at scale. So if we go right click on the name of the agent, run field agent, and then all in view, we'll get to see that generate at scale across every source within our app here. And there we go. There's a nice starting point for our product manager to respond to this feedback. So now you're all set to discover new customer insights from your data. If you want to make additional changes to this app, just ask Omni. Add new tables, new automations, new interfaces, and new field agents through conversation with Omni. For example, I could ask Omni to add an additional table to represent all of the items currently on our roadmap, which we could then map directly to the themes that are emerging from our customer feedback. And there we go. Omni understood the intent behind our request and created a new table that relates directly to the rest of our app. Get in touch with the Airtable team if you need more support on how to use this app.